It was quickly apparent that we had what amounted to an active shooter situation.
At this hour, police say they have now arrested 3
Police say at
suspects.
least 2 snipers were involved. 11 officers and 1 protester, a mom who was there with her children, were shot. 5 officers have been killed. 3 suspects are in custody. 1 suspect is dead.
As a peaceful protest in response to the recent deaths of black men at the hands of police in Louisiana and Minnesota, interrupted by a hail of gunfire.
How many states have laws that limit the amount of guns you can buy within a 30-day or less period?
20?
15.
15.
Well, I know New York is really strict, but I'm not really sure about any other states.
0.
I'm gonna just take an odd guess here that the number 30.
I'm gonna say less than 25.
25.
8.
6.
Oh.
Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island.
6.
Well, you got New York is actually one of them. It's only 6 other states. Like 6 states including New York.
And there's 50 in America.
Background checks are generally instant. However, they may take longer. If after 3 days the background check has yet to clear, the gun shop owner may legally sell the firearm. If the gun is sold after the 3-day waiting period and the background check determines the buyer cannot legally own a gun, a retrieval order is placed by the federal government and the gun shop owner is responsible for retrieving the firearm. Approximately what percent of these guns do you think are actually retrieved?
3%.
30%.
Maybe like 60.
20%. 25%.
10.
12%.
52.
11%.
11%. 5,000 out of 45,000.
5,000 out of 45,000.
You would think people would learn, but no.
Before this process occurs, it is legal for the gun shop owner to deny a customer of a gun if felt necessary. What percentage of gun sales do you think result in denial?
64.
18.
Oh, been having low numbers so far. I'm gonna say 10.
5%.
15%.
3.
8.
5.
5.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
That's like, what the heck?
Less than 1%.
Well, people just want their money, don't they?
If there's known record of mental health issues, is it still possible for a person to purchase a gun?
No.
No.
Yes.
Shockingly enough, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Although the federal law prohibits it, the federal law also cannot require this information to be shared with agencies that perform background checks. Therefore, if a gun shop owner fails to deny this person a gun or make note of their mental health, they can easily pass a background check.
So you can get away with it.
Yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
In a survey conducted in 2013 by WonkBlog, an estimated 8.1 guns are in the average gun-owning household. This is a major issue for those whom are questioning why so many guns are needed in one household. A counter-argument is that the Second Amendment protects these rights and its freedom to purchase as many guns as desired. However, it can be shown that the more guns that are available produce a larger risk of homicide. This fact demonstrates how dangerous guns can be, especially in high quantities. This risk can greatly be decreased by limiting the amount of guns able to be purchased at a given time. 6 states have observed this and made laws to prohibit the purchase of multiple guns within a 30-day or less period. These 6 states include Virginia, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. After these laws were established, the amount of gun crime was diminished. further proving the fact that possession of multiple guns creates a higher risk of homicide and gun violence. These states operate on their own laws because the federal law does not limit the amount of guns an individual can buy within a given amount of time. The federal law requires only 4 states, Arizona, California, New Mexico, and Texas, to report when multiple guns are purchased in a given time. Because the federal law does not enforce these restrictions on most of the country, gun violence due to multiple guns is still extremely prevalent. In addition to the quantity of guns increasing the risk of gun violence, guns purchased in multiples are more likely to be used for crimes. Federal law defines a multiple sale as the sale of 2 or more guns to the same purchaser within 5 business days. Approximately 20% of guns purchased in these multiple sales were used in crimes. The possession of multiple guns plays a major role in gun crime. This, being part of the purchasing process, can be resolved with a more coherent system for purchasing guns. By observing these statistics, more laws prohibiting the multiple sales of guns can be established, which will ultimately decrease gun violence.
All right, so let's talk about gun control, specifically the current process of purchasing a firearm. Now, federal law mandates that all licensed firearm dealers run a federal background check on any individual trying to purchase a firearm. This is done through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS for short, which usually only takes a few minutes to clear. This, however, only applies to licensed firearm dealers and does not apply to private sales. Private gun sales, bans on certain types of weapons such as assault rifles, and limits on gun purchases are all usually regulated by the state. For example, the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, a group of California-based attorneys who are pushing for safer gun laws, have stated that only 11 states actually require background checks to be done between private sellers. This has led to what is known as the gun show loophole, in which individuals bypass the federal background check by obtaining firearms at gun shows through private sellers. Sadly, this is not the only way to circumvent the federal background check mandate. Let's take, for example, Pennsylvania. In PA, to purchase a handgun, one can go to a licensed gun store, provide a state-issued photo ID, fill out a 3-page application, pass the background check, and walk out with as many guns as one can afford, all within a matter of minutes. However, what happens if the NICS does not instantly clear the individual? Well, according to Trace, an independent nonprofit news organization focused around gun control, the federal government has 3 days to make a decision. If after 3 days the background check is still pending, the firearm dealer may go ahead and sell the gun. This is also known as default proceed. And to make matters worse, the firearm dealer doesn't even have to let the federal government know that the gun has been sold. Now, the White House has stated that since the inception of NICS 17 years ago, over 1.2 million guns have been denied to people who may not legally possess a firearm. However, how many people have slipped through the cracks? What we really need to do is mandate a background check for any kind of firearm transaction, whether it be business or private sales, as well as end the time limit imposed for a background check to clear. After all, if you can legally own a gun, a background check should not be a deterrent.
Less than 1% of gun sales result in denials. This is a major concern and issue regarding gun control because the lack of denials and thorough background checks can put a deadly weapon in the wrong hands. One reason a gun may not be denied to a customer is through private sales. The single largest gap in the federal background check requirement is that unlicensed private sellers are not required to conduct these background checks. As a result, convicted felons and other ineligible people are able to easily buy guns in most states nationwide. A gun purchaser is required to show proof of identity when buying a firearm. However, federal law does not provide a mechanism for dealers to ensure that these identification documents are valid. This gap in the system allows prohibited individuals to purchase firearms without effective background checks using fake or forged documents. Federal law's default proceed law is another reason for a lack of gun sale because it provides agents only 3 days to conduct and finish their investigation if a background check requires further review. Under federal law, if a firearms dealer who has initiated a background check has not been notified within these 3 business days that the sale would violate federal or state laws, the sale may proceed by default. The problem with this provision is that a background check may need to take longer than those 3 days to be investigated more thoroughly. Many default proceed cases require extra time and attention precisely because the firearm purchaser has a long record of dangerous red flags. According to data compiled from Mayors Against Illegal Guns, these default sales are 8 times more likely to involve a prohibited purchaser than other background checks.
Why are people with mental illness able to obtain guns? Although President Obama addressed new steps to stop gun control, currently there is a major background check loophole. A variation in state laws and incomplete record sharing leave openings for people with mental illness to purchase guns. In a recent article by Alicia Parlapiano at New York Times, she said, according to federal law, individuals cannot buy a gun if a court or other authority has deemed them a mental defect or committed them involuntarily to a mental hospital. Only a handful of states prohibit border categories of people with mental illness from obtaining a gun. If that person voluntarily admitted themselves into a mental hospital, they could own a gun. Those states include Illinois, Connecticut, and Maryland, as well as Washington, D.C. Ideally, background checks are supposed to prevent firearms from falling into the wrong hands. For example, Virginia Tech, Tucson, and Aurora are all series of mass shootings that involved a shooter that suffered from serious mental illness. In some cases, many gunmen legally purchased the firearms they used to cause such horrific travesties. In an article by Emanuela Grinberg with CNN, stated that people with serious mental illness are 3 times more likely than those who are not mentally ill to commit violent acts against themselves or others. The National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS, is a key part in gun control. They are the ones making sure dealers check the system before selling a gun to a prospective buyer. According to smartgunlaws.org, the number of mental health records in NICS increased over 700% between the Virginia Tech shooting and January 31st, 2014. Even with the use of the NICS, people with mental illnesses are still obtaining guns. Despite the increase in the number of individuals identified in NICS, mental health records are consistently underreported to the federal and state databases, which are used in the process of background checks. Due to this flaw in the system, many people are obtaining guns, even people potentially unfit to own a gun.
What's your thoughts
How
on
are you
gun
feeling
control?
right now? I feel uncomfortable answering.
Are you gonna cry?
No, I'm just like getting really sweaty. How do you feel about gun control? I feel very strongly about it. I don't like it.
You think this will change your mind?
Ask me after, honestly. Like, I can't, like, probably not. Probably not. Are you excited at all?
If in doubt, ask.
A little bit.
Alright.
Ready to go? Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Let's do it. You ready?
You got a center with you, see that?
Elise, how was the shooting? That's okay. Do your opinions on gun control change? No. But it was fun. It was kind of fun. But my opinion stayed the same.